right. Welcome. Good morning, good evening. Bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Bienvenue. Welcome to this week's edition of Wada Forum. We are glad to have you all with us today, either on Zoom or on X, tuning in for this important discussion. As always, we like to set the tone with our statement of purpose. Our mission is to elevate underrepresented groups through the application of technology and invest in a more equitable future. Notre mission, élever les groupes sous-représentés grâce à l'application de la technologie et investir dans un avenir plus équitable. So this week's forum, I'm going to pass over the hosting baton to Madame Mercy. So Mercy, if you could come forwards and give us a quick opening to help set the tone and explain today's event.
Perfect. Thank you, Megan. I know that today you are wearing multiple hats, hosting the forum as you normally do, and also moderating this special session about the Cardano budget 2025. Yes, I'm the host for the session. Today we're going to have great conversations, as you can see on the agenda. We're going to have the process overview. I'm going to do that, and then we're going to hear from our DReps. We're going to have proposal highlights and some open dialogue, as well as community reflections, and then we'll look at our next steps. That will be me. So to set the tone for today, we are blessed to have some DReps with us. Thank you very much for your work. We also want to welcome all those that are with us in Zoom, as well as those that are on Twitter. We are very honored to have you. So in terms of the Cardano budget 2025, there has been a lot of discussion and work that has been done. And we're going to discuss that today. In terms of setting the tone, we are going to keep it positive. I mean, when we look at a lot of the community, should I say, proposals, whether it's marketing, whether it's research, whether it's, there are a whole lot of things, even, how do I say, a membership and so on. We still have ways to go in terms of how it will reflect in the budget. However, as I said, we will keep the discussion positive, as well as one thing that I want us to remember is that, when we think of what has been done from 1694 right down to the Constitution, the convention that we had in Argentina and Kenya, it was all good. But really, governance starts once there are common goods to be shared, right? So in this case, once we put the treasury out, as has been put out, and then that is when real governance begins, because then it's like who gets what for doing what. So we are going to put all that on discussion today, as we've said. Yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Megan. I'm assuming that Megan will introduce our panelists. Is that right?
Yeah, but before that, Mercy, I wonder if you could give us a brief overview of how the budget process evolved, and things like that to get us started before we break into the actual panelists.
All right. So to tell you all the truth, things are still evolving. So as we know, on the 24th of April, submissions were closed for proposals. There were quite a few proposals that were submitted. And as I said, our DReps have done a lot of work in terms of voting. As of now, it is quite heavy with tech. As of now, the total that we have in terms of all the proposals that have been sort of voted in, and when I say voted in, what I mean is that it has to pass the threshold of 50% plus one. So if your yes is more than 50% of the total participating stake, then you can make your way onto the budget info action that is going to be submitted pretty soon. So, as I said, after the 24th, it was closed, and since then it's just been voting, and here we are. We have not yet decided what is going to go into the the budget info action. Although we do have, as I said, as long as a proposal has made 50% plus one, it's going to go into the budget info action, and that is what will also be subsequently voted on chain by the DReps. Yeah, so I think that for now, really, that is where we are. From sort of, I'm on the budget committee, and from sort of the organizing perspective, things are still very fluid, as I said, because, for instance, one big thing that needs to be sorted out is actually making sure that the Intersect proposal or Intersect gets funded, because Intersect is going to be the administrator. But as of now, Intersect hasn't gotten the 50 plus one. So that introduces a lot of fluidity in terms of when are we actually going to put the combined budget on chain to be voted formally on by the DREP. So in that sense, I can't say a lot more than I'm saying now because, as I said, things are fluid, but we'll keep everybody updated. And here we are. This is what governance is, and this is what we are dealing with. So I think back to you, Megan. Anything else?
All right. Well, so my understanding is that budget proposals have gone in, they've started to be voted on. There's been some reconciliation process, but as we stand right now, we're waiting to just accumulate some more votes to be more telling of the DREP sentiment. And maybe we should be more specific. The votes are coming just from DREPs at this time. Is that right?
Right
That's the
now,
only kind
yes.
of entity that has a
Yes.
say.
Yes. Right now, it's only DReps that have a say. And the current voting window, just to select the proposals that go onto the budget info action, the deadline, it looks like we might stick to the 5th May date. Then DReps, the voting is done. We were wondering whether we were going to do another reconciliation workshop this weekend or maybe next weekend. So in that sense, as I said, things are still a little bit fluid in terms of what ultimately goes into the budgeting for action and how that looks like.
All right. Well, I think this is a perfect segue now into meeting some of our DReps and talking about, how this process went for you and getting a bit of an inside look into how some of our African DReps approach this. So at this time, if you are one of the panelists, if you could just turn your camera on, even if it's briefly, so we can pin you to spotlight you. The different DReps that we have on our panel discussion today, we have the Wada DRep, we have Sedu, we have Lido Nation, and Goma DRep, and Kit Willow. So welcome, panelists. Maybe we can start off. My first thing I wanted to talk about as Mercy was talking, I'm thinking, this is a lot for DReps to handle. There were a lot of budget proposals. So maybe Nana Safo, we could start with you, and you could talk a little bit about what was your approach to going through the proposals and looking at them from a DREP perspective.
Well, I mean, thank you very much, Megan, for the opportunity. And also, I want to express my gratitude to um, the organizers of this particular event. I think it is useful that every now and then we give our DReps the opportunity to be able to contribute to, governance and also to the entire ecosystem. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy for this event and thanks for having me. So to go in quick or to answer your question briefly, I mean, going into the budget process, I sort of knew it was not going to be a smooth journey or an easy journey, if I should put it that way. I knew it was going to be a bit tough because when it comes to spending, there are a lot of cultural differences that comes to play. There are some that feels like we need to spend all. There are some that also feels like we need to, I mean, be conservative about our spendings and all. So, I mean, I knew it was not going to be an easy task, but personally, as a DRep, going into this, together with my other DRep team members, our focus really was that, you know what, we need to spend to develop the ecosystem, but then we need to spend judiciously, right? So we were looking for proposals that were going to make, meaningful impact onto the ecosystem, and then we would vote for them. I mean, we were sort of open-minded as to whether it is a core project which is based on development, or whether it was a community project based on establishing community hubs or expanding community hubs, or whether it was focused on marketing or even developing tools to aid Cardano's governance. We were willing to go for it once it was going to align with the immediate needs of the ecosystem. And as well, we had a net chain limit that we're working with. So yeah, I mean, we're very much open-minded and looking out for proposals that were going to make the most impact for Cardano in the year 2025. So that is how we approached this whole budget process. And I think it was very useful and very helpful for, our assessment and review of proposals. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was a good intro. And Sadhu, I also saw you being quite active. How did you prioritize, or I guess what part of the process did you prioritize as far as looking at the different budget proposals?
Yeah, Megan, thanks so much for opportunity and for this call once again. As Nana has made mention, uh, this has this was a crucial moment for all of us as Direct, especially for those of us from Africa. On our end, we did a review with three of our team members to find out more pressing need or more important proposals to support in this first ever Cardano budget. So what we were doing is that, we were in support of the 200 million net chain limit. So all our proposals, or one of our criteria we recently selected, was based on proposals which was not much budgeted for in terms of ADA. That was one of the key things that we were looking for. So far, we have submitted about 126 votes, and then out of that 126 votes, I think we have supported 46 as yes vote, and we have abstained 17, and then the rest 63 has been voted no for now. We are still doing one or two reviews to close up the voting by the end of either Monday, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, Friday rather. Yeah, Friday rather. Yeah.
All right, it seems like everyone's eager to talk about the specific, areas of the budget, but I wanted to start more on a high level in terms of, your approach. Was it reading through all the proposals? Was it attending X spaces? And maybe Darlington, you can come up next and talk about, which part of the process you prioritized as a DREP. If it was, doing the dirty work, reading through Gov tools, or what part was the most important in your opinion?
Um, Thanks for having me, everyone. Good to be here, Darlington in Nairobi. Yeah, the process I think it's changed even a couple times now since we started voting on gov.tools. So just keeping up with Flash, What's the first thing? Is waiting a little for the lighter DRep to let things settle. But when the way Lighter has approached the governance and these budget proposals is trying to stay close to the original vision of community coming together, having a vision and a plan for the year, and then people submit stuff that matches that plan. Uh, so that this what we have now, where companies are sort of setting the priorities for Cardano instead of the other way around, has been a little disorienting for us. So we've stayed away from those proposals. We've mostly looked at core proposals or proposals that explicitly point to the Cardano roadmap that was put on chain, that was ratified by DReps. So if you are speaking directly to that roadmap, we give you a look and a yes or no, how well you're answering the roadmap or not. And if you weren't at all, it was either a no, just to be fiscally responsible, or we just didn't even get time to look at those proposals. So we started from the roadmap and sort of worked our way down.
All right, thanks there. And I think, do we have Kit still with us? Kit, are you here?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay, just hiding. Oh, there we go. I wanted to also bring you up and talk about what, what was the interesting part for you of engaging with the budget process? What did you enjoy participating in?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Um,
Good evening.
it's an honor for me to be here. Uh, yeah, about the budget process. Hmm. I know Mercy said at the beginning that we should try and keep it positive, so I'm going to keep it positive. So, see, I am not currently engaging with any proposal or voting. I have half of mind not voting for any proposal, and it's basically related to what Darlington said. I absolutely agree with him. My reservation, especially I'm disappointed with the way the intersect and tender process turned out because I was involved from the beginning. My reservation for going that all out, everybody just trying to propose everything like that without any sort of defined roadmap, without any sort of oversight, especially from the committees, from the various committees that aligns with the particular budget, like the bucket innovation or the bucket of that particular budget, right? Is that what would we would essentially see again was Catalyst 2.0, and we're already seeing how it is playing out. So basically, I have looked through a few proposals, few promising one. I hope they get funded. I hope the politics of people trying to lobby for their own proposal don't let them overlook things that we actually really need to support, and they get funded, and I hope it turns out well for some proposals. But majority of the proposals that I have been seeing was a lot of sort of like that same field of catalyst, people just doing what they want to do, what they need to do without thinking of what Cardano needs, right? A lot of the proposals were about what people need to do and not what Cardano needs. So I absolutely agree with Darlington. We should have stuck to, deciding on a clear roadmap, a clear vision, aligned goals of what we all wanted to do, or what Cardano needs to do with the treasury before we allow people to start bidding, especially with the intersect process. Because the intersect process should have been, streamlined enough since everybody the whole reason why it existed was that people don't have to pay the 100K to submit that info action. So that's just my thought about it anyway. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I would highlight that I will give everyone a chance to share, some highlights from the budget. So if you want to gather links, we'll get to that later on in today's session for the panelists here. But I also know we have Martin with us from the Goma DRep. So Martin, are you with us still? I wondered if you could talk a bit more about any challenges you might have had in actually integrating into this whole process.
Yeah. Hi everyone. So it was good to get together here and talk of this kind of interesting things around Cardano. Uh, so I would say that we have been here since the beginning, since the inception of this governance initiative. We've been trying to take part as a community, and this has been a really effective. Um, I can say it is an appreciation. When it comes to this budget process, in particular, we we've been following it, and recently we gathered, powered by Intersect in Wada to have in person events, talking around these budget proposals, what people are bringing in, and what fits the best for us is the Cardano vision. That's what we've been focusing on mostly when discussing proposals. You're trying to see people are really trying to build things, but are those things aligned with what is the Cardano roadmap and the vision of all these things we've been doing here? Always challenging is has been for us taking parts in these things, virtual things, and so like in infrastructure and not getting people really concentrated to look at these things. But we almost do it, and we do our best to keep staying here, no matter what's going on. We know the process may with us or without us, the process will be going on. So we make sure we are here with all the challenges and things that may happen. So that's what we've been looking for when looking at the proposal as the Go Majira. We join, we gather the community, we hear from them, our local community, we hear from them what they think of for proposals. We see whether budgets are accurate because not everyone asking for funds is really trying to build something great. And we also see whether the proposal is following the Cardano vision, the roadmap, and so on. So that's it.
Yeah, maybe hearing everyone talking, I'm thinking, a big challenge for DReps is really, the very quick turnaround of this whole process and the massive inflow of proposals to need to, digest and analyze and vote on in a very short time. So I think that's a huge challenge that, all of you have overcome to some extent by making priorities, etc. But Nana Safo, maybe you can talk about your particular approach to how you handled kind of this massive task in front of you and how you made it manageable.
Yeah, so for me, I think one thing that really helped me was the fact that I was involved with the process right from day one, and I never switched off. So on each and every single budget meeting that was conducted, or say budget workshop that was conducted, I was present, and I also did my very best to engage with the process through, channels like Discord. I was very active over there, always looking for information, always contributing and stuff. So it made the process a bit easy for me. I didn't have to really struggle, even as and when the pivot happened. I sort of was prepared for, the pivots, and once it happened, I was able to, handle it because it wasn't too much of a task for me to handle. Yeah, I always say if I was not extremely active with it, I probably would have struggled with the process as and when the pivot happened. And I didn't allow myself to be discouraged either when it happened, even though the process is not perfect. But I still felt like there is a need to still be involved and also make sure that you're contributing precisely, just to ensure that at least whatever it is that you were looking forward to happening does happen. Even if it doesn't happen, you've still made an effort and made some meaningful contributions to shaping the process at large. So that is pretty much what helped me to stay afloat and not, dwindle down the line as the pivot even happened. So that's pretty much how I handled my, any challenges that I sort of encountered during the process. And I'll be happy to also hear from the other DReps on call how they also maneuvered if they did encounter any challenge at all.
Yeah, thanks, Nana Safo. I'll pass it over to Seydu. Maybe you could talk about how, how you stayed afloat with all these proposals to review.
Right. So, with regards to the challenges that we encounter, and we are still battling with it, is the net chain limit, which was very important. To me, we also started following the process at the beginning to where we are now. What we should have done earlier on was to set the net chain limit before we could start even asking for proposals. Today, as we stand, we are working with the 350 million ADA, and we are also working on voting on or to decide on 200 million ADA. And then it's also possible that even after the budget has been passed, the net chain limit can be changed. This is I think a bottleneck or stamping on what we are doing now. So what happens now is that, or what we are doing now, we are just focused on the amount of data that has been requested. And that's why we are even supporting the traditional entities like the Catalyst and then Intersect, and then I will to support us. Oh, sorry. I just want to look at my light. Yes, please. I'll be back.
Yeah, maybe should we come back to you? And Darlington, if you wanted to jump in here you kind of talked about how you prioritized a certain set of proposals, but would you have anything else in terms of challenges that you feel you were either able to overcome or that were a blocker to you in this process?
Yeah, I think just time really. It just seems like everything is compressed. That is the biggest challenge, right? And the way I thought to overcome it is to give myself time and narrow my scope, which, we are probably going to miss a bunch of stuff, or some proposers might feel like we're not giving them a fair chance, but there's just so little time. So where do you start? Yeah, so
Yeah, exactly. Do a little bit well or do a lot of it, half.
exactly.
I think that's
Right.
a good approach. And if we're all organized enough to divide that in a good way, so everyone's giving one portion of it a fair analysis, then that can be, I think a really positive way to break up
True.
work. Kit, I'd like to call you up again. So maybe you can start us off with just talking about, what volume of proposals do you feel like you got to really look at, and what were kind of your lessons learned from looking through them? Kit, are you here?
Yeah, sorry, could you repeat your question again? The network was bad.
Sure. So I'm wondering, what volume of proposals, like, do you feel like you got through most of the proposals? Do you feel like you focused on just one category? And then, of those proposals, what was your big takeaway?
Okay, I didn't exactly take a big in-depth glance at every proposal because that's impossible. There were a lot of proposals,
Yeah.
but I did glance through every category. I take a big glance through. My big takeaway there was that 70% is uh forgive me, but this is going to sound okay. My big takeaway was that 70% was absolutely not needed. Like I would be happy if 70% of everything that was proposed to like I didn't agree with 70% of everything that was there. Like most of the proposals there were I mean, I respect time and uh the time and the effort and the energy that was put into um writing those proposals. It's nothing against the people that were writing the proposals or anything, but I do feel uh like I said earlier on, people were writing things that they feel like they want to do, which is really good, right? But they're not really thinking much of what Cardano needs right now on how or what we want to like what we need to get in Cardano, what we need to sign up on in Cardano, and that was what got at me the most. I mean, so I was a bit. That was like the second thing that turned me away. Aside from the fact that the whole thing was turned to Catalyst 2.0, which I was vehemently against the moment they were trying to pivot that way, and that's why I stood on the sidelines. The moment the thing turned to that way, I disengaged. So yeah, I got through the proposals. They were really, really good ones. I I think I found some three really good ones that I really wish they get funded. But then most of the ones I was unimpressed by them. Sorry.
No, did you say sorry at the end? No, no, don't say sorry to any of us here. We're here just to get, this is an opinion round, so it's just getting everyone
Yeah,
from
I
it.
just apologize in case anybody that is watching, right? In case for anyone that is watching, if your proposals were among the ones that it
No,
wasn't
I think I
personal,
think you
just
nuanced it well. There's an understanding, right, of everyone's in this, I think the budget proposal process came at us very fast. So, some people could have misunderstood. Everyone has their own, Cardano does everything different for each of us, right? And so everyone has a little bit different of a view of what priorities Cardano needs to have in terms of how it fits into our personal, livelihoods and our personal, goals and dreams. So um, that's a challenge because we're now trying to all of Cardano, the whole ecosystem, get on the same page of what's a priority for Cardano. And each of us have different little priorities within that. So that's definitely a challenge to get all on the same page. But I want to continue the round, and Martin, I'll call you up. Similar question, but just, what kind of volume did you feel you were able to get through of the proposals, and what was your takeaway? Martin from Goma.
Yes. Um, Really, the value I could find in the proposals is the kind of styles that I realize that people they are proposing what they can build, and when you go through some proposals, you really feel that some people are really willing to help, are willing to build interesting things, uh, and maybe they they should deserve to be part of the budget process. And we have been mostly looking at the kinds of, well, looking at all the proposals that could come our way, but we've been mostly looking at the proposals oriented to the community as a kind of community proposals, because we almost think that this this aspect of things should not be left behind. And that's what it sometimes seems. People are mostly trying to be turned around products and so on. That's also good. But products with no community, how will that work? I don't know. If we have products, we need to have people using those products. So yeah, we know there are quite other people looking carefully at those proposals, but we almost try to focus on the community proposals, and we really realize that there are people that are doing their best to build interesting things. But a kind of a kind of curiosity came when we have been discussing. As I said, we had the chance to do this in person with some guys here in Goma. But when we read proposals, we've been wondering, uh, is there any maybe anything or any plans, whether by design or so on? Because when we look at proposals, we are realizing that the same proposals we have in Catalyst are trying to be funded with all this budget process. So I don't know, how are you going to, as the community, maybe as some of the communities that intersect, how are we going to track to make sure we are not funding the same things maybe twice? Because we saw a lot of proposals there that maybe have even been funded in Catalyst or are going to come back in the Catalyst, the next round, the 14th round. So we've been wondering, having such a discussion, whether there is a given mechanism or a particular committee will be focusing on such a thing.
Well, I think you bring up another big challenge in this whole process is that it's put a halt on Catalyst. And that's, where a lot of projects went to for continued funding, for initial funding. And so that's kind of to Kit's point earlier of that's why, maybe there's been more of an inflow of kind of, irrelevant to some of us proposals or what some might argue is not part of the Cardano roadmap, but people are looking for solutions because there's not a Catalyst fund ready yet. But you did, Martin, you did bring up the workshop you had, and I realized we have 3 people here who did host some of these budget process workshops. So I'd like to hear more from each of you. So we'll start with Nana Safo and Darlington, and back to you, Martin, about the workshop that you had about the budget process, kind of how it went, and what was your takeaway from those?
Yeah, I think the workshops were great. Especially the one that I was present in as a DRep. It was great in a sense that we had meaningful contributions from the members who attended that particular workshop. The only problem was that we didn't have enough time to actually go about reviewing the proposals as they are supposed to be done. I mean, like tactically. But then I think the team did a great job in a sense that given the little time we had, we were still able to give a very good review of the proposals and provide a very good comment for the proposers. And I believe if they integrate those comments into their proposals, it should have a good standing, right? And I think yeah, that was pretty much all about it. And I mean, thanks. Let me use the opportunity to also thank everyone who was on call that day for the workshop. I think your contributions were very valuable, and hopefully in the nearest future to come, we can have more of these workshops. And I believe if we had enough time and enough resources to host, subsequent workshops, we would have been able to cover a lot of the proposals as a group to be able to share our sentiment and our views as far as reviews are concerned. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Donna Safo. Darlington, I know you hosted an in-person workshop. Can you tell us a little bit about how it went and some takeaways from that?
It was really fun. We've been with you guys actually. Lido and Wida have been building a physical space here in Nairobi. It's not ready, but we were able to use it for the event, and just the energy in the room was nice. People were asking questions. Whenever I do workshops or just host these conversations, I always assume there's half the room either is the very first time or the last time they talked about Cardano was the previous workshop and they've been busy living. Um, so I like to take it from the top, get everyone engaged immediately, explaining why the thing they're here, what are we talking about, what's going on, and then I fill in the blanks. And then we borrow some of the structure from voltage control, again, just to have people feel like they can participate. So we had a mix up of a group of three and big groups and group of three and helping each other, even with drafting the comments. We sort of use in a room, but like WhatsApp and posting stuff to WhatsApp group and just being organized. And that worked really well. I think we got to a dozen or so proposal. And everyone had something personal from their own thoughts to say. We did prefix before we got the proposals. We did give them 5 minutes in a group of three to read through the roadmap and ask each other questions and make sure they understand what's on the roadmap. And then we had a structured pick a proposal from this category. How does it meet the roadmap? Does it not? Do you think we should fund it? And that worked out super well. I think it was and people had fun, which was shocking.
Shocking.
This stuff is that there's technical stuff in there. There's like names you never heard before. You don't even know how do you assess, whether the person proposing has the chops to do the work. Those kind of work is usually like tedious, but somehow these folks made it fun. So that was the shocking part.
Well, maybe the question is, what's the food that you served?
Food, we worked about 60 minutes in, and then we took a food break. We got up until we were able to read through the product roadmap, discussing our small group and big group. Then we took a food break. Then we went into voting, and not voting, but commenting and reviewing. Nothing crazy, just chicken in, the KFC type stuff, and pizza, soda, water.
Oh, you did have
Yeah.
pizza. Okay. Martin,
Uh,
you had an in-person event. I don't think you served pizza there.
We had like shawarma.
Shawarma, okay. Nice. So
Yeah,
you already talked a little bit about some of the takeaways, but is there anything else you'd like to share with us about the event that you held?
yeah, sure. Uh, as Nana said, we didn't have really as much time as we could uh, maybe prefer to have for such an interesting moments with the community. But we mostly did what we could. We also divided the whole group into small groups, so we could start small the discussions, and then we will bring all together to get to discuss and maybe justify anyone's position about a given particular proposal. It was quite a good process, uh, giving everyone the opportunity to participate and to bring in their contributions. But it was great. It was great. We had a great time doing that.
All right, overall positive feedback. Seydu, are you back with us? I know your camera is off, but you can still talk. Oh, okay. Maybe not, in fact. Nana Safo, I realized I didn't necessarily give you the chance to talk about, your overall takeaways from reviewing. I know you reviewed quite a lot of proposals. So maybe you wanted to touch on that. Do you feel like you got to all of them? I know you're quite efficient in there. And what was a big takeaway you had? Oh, and then I'll bring Seydu back up after. See, he's on.
Sorry, I didn't hear your question, Megan.
Oh, I'll come back to you. I was inviting Nana Safo up first. I think you dropped for a second.
Hi, Megan. Can you hit me with my question again?
Of course. So I wanted to know if you felt like you got to all of the proposals, at least in some capacity. And what would you say is your biggest kind of takeaway looking back at everything you read through?
Well, I think it is pretty much what all have said. I mean, in a sense that this budget process has sort of evolved to be something like Catalyst 2.0. And I remember very well the last time on the budget reconciliation workshop, I was telling the team that we need to work holistically such that we don't turn this whole process into a Catalyst 2.0, because currently as it stands, it looks like that is what we are experiencing. In the sense that we've seen a lot of proposals that ideally were supposed to be submitted to, I mean, Catalyst for funding, but for some reason they found their way to, I mean, this particular budget process. And I mean, as and when it was announced that the community should be allowed to make their inputs, I mean, I thought that the process was going to be that, you know, we would allow the community to submit their proposals, but then we would allow subject matter experts from each and every committee to review these proposals and then identify the ones that, you know, are good to go for, I mean, treasury funding. But then, you know, it was pushed all the way down to DReps to do this review and stuff. And, you know, they had to struggle around it and then, you know, make their choices. But for me, I think, I mean, my key takeaway is the fact that, you know, maybe going forward, I don't know if that is what will work, but at least for this particular year, I thought we're going to set the stage to allow proposals from, say, IO, you know, and I mean, IO to develop the ecosystem to a certain stage where now we can now open up the treasury to the entire community to bring in their proposals. I mean, to work on, I mean, the various other ventures that they want to work on. That being said, we would have Catalyst to, I mean, serve as a, I mean, the go-to, I mean, place for people in the community to go and seek for funding to work on their projects. But then for this particular year, I thought we're going to allow IO to submit their proposals and then, you know, go through it. And then once it is passed and maybe intersect, then we can use that to manage the treasury for now. And then the subsequent years, we can now look at how best we can expand it and allow proposals from the entire community in terms of trying to fund them out of, I mean, the treasury. And one thing that was, I mean, pretty funny was the fact that there was a proposal requesting funding from the Cardano treasury to build and deploy a system on Ethereum. Can you imagine? I mean, so and if DReps were not very scrutiny, we wouldn't have found this and probably would have found its way through, right? But I mean, these are some of the issues that comes with opening up the treasury to the entire community widely. And maybe going forward, we'll now look at how best we can safeguard it and, you know, keep the door not completely shut, but somewhat shut so that we can have the most relevant, I mean, proposals or the most relevant projects that needs to be built on Cardano, you know, come through for funding. And then once funded, they get to develop and then, you know, deploy on Cardano. Yeah, so that is pretty much my take from, I mean, this whole process in terms of reviewing the proposals. There are a lot of proposals, very interesting ones, you know, but for majority of them, I thought these were a good fit for Catalyst and they should probably find their way there. But for those ones that are very critical and, I mean, in terms of priority, very urgently needed for Cardano's development right from now to the end of the year, I think they were also awesome. And they were also awesome. And I'm looking forward to some of them, I mean, going through and then, you know, getting funded.
Thank you. You bring up, you know, a great point in terms of, you know, where is the place for decentralization, and when can it be introduced fully? Because I think a challenge was, you know, they kind of went through the version of that you said where the doors were a bit more closed to the process, or at least they seemed to be closed to the community. And so addressing that by opening up proposals to anyone, brought in a certain level of confusion. But I want to bring Seydou, I want to bring you back in. Maybe you can talk a little bit more to this idea of where is the line between a Catalyst proposal and a Cardano budget proposal. And maybe I'll just kind of introduce that a little bit more. When putting in Catalyst proposals, I know a lot of the time we're talking about perpetuating Cardano's mission throughout, you know, if it's events, and there are definitely some types of proposals that we do put into Catalyst that also kind of align with the budget process. But I wonder if you have any ideas about where you know, a really more strict line for which one belongs in Catalyst and which one belongs in this intersect budget proposal.
Right. So, Megan, just to draw this line, we should be looking at the roadmap, as my co-panelists have already mentioned. The roadmap should be the distinguishing factor between what should be a catalyst proposal or what should be the treasury proposal. But this is unfortunate. Kate has already mentioned it. It's nothing but catalyst 2.0, and then we fail at the beginning. So we always say in catalyst is an experiment. We have to revolve and then re-strategize and then change the things going forward. As well as the amount is also something that we don't even have, but we are still voting proposals. I'm still talking about net chain limits. So it's something that we should have just get the foundation wall before we probably proceed. I remember in one of these the workshops. I mean, the reconciliation workshop. I asked that question, but I directed it to Catalyst and later transferred it to the Intercept team as to what criteria have they put forward to prevent double funding of projects. So Danny from Catalyst came and then he made his explanation that probably they will definitely work on that going forward in Fund 14 to the Fund 16 that they are working on. And then I transferred that question to the Intercept team where Lloyd came to say that that one will be based on the contract that they will be signing with the proposers to see that the proposal has not been the proposal has not been funded before. But the question now is the Intercept has the power to deny a proposal of funding with DReps or the committee has already approved? That's something Intercept has to come clear with. But if DReps has voted a proposal to be funded, and then basically, or at the end of the day, you realize that the proposal has not been or was not suited for the treasury, how is it going to be? How are they going to handle that? So probably we will learn from that and then go forward. Thank you.
All right, you brought up a really valuable point, and I see Mercy has her hand raised. So Mercy, I want to invite you up if you wanted to address what Seydou just brought up.
Yes, that was a very good point. I think one thing that we need to remember is that getting all these proposals onto the budget info action is not the end of the story. So after we get it, as I said, right now we are sitting around 250 or so million, a little under. If we put all that into an info action, right? A budget info action and get DReps to vote on it on chain. And they agree that, okay, for 2025, our budget is such and such. We still are going to do another a vote on chain, and that's the treasury withdrawal. So this is going to be a two-step process, and maybe that's something that I should have mentioned earlier on. So the fact that some project or initiative makes its way onto the budget info action does not necessarily mean that when it comes to the time to actually vote to withdraw money from the treasury, it will automatically pass. I know that this will not happen, but for instance, right now, Catalyst has more than, I think they are sitting at 67 or something like that approval. They would definitely get a chance to get on the budget info action. But then there still has to be another vote to actually, for the treasury withdrawal. So, it's a very busy time for DReps, definitely. And as DReps, it's important to know these things and figure out how to pace yourselves. Thank you.
All right, Kit, I'll let you weigh in here and then we'll do a round sharing. Everyone can highlight different proposals that you want to highlight that you're hoping to see funded. But Kit,
Yeah, thank you,
first.
Megan. I'll just be really quick. So I really like what Sage said, and I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree entirely with what Mercy said, but I think I understand. But when I look at it, I look at it that if you see proposals, the whole reason for this intersect budget process is that to submit an info action, it's a steep cost, 100K either to submit an info action, an info budget action. So now Intersect is trying to like assist the community in that sort of way that proposals can come in under their bucket or under their 100,000 either bucket. Now the issue there is that Zaidu raised a very, very good point. Now, how do they ensure? Because once it goes their info action, everything is going to be submitted all at once. All the proposals approved from this particular first step process is going to be submitted under the same info action. So funding, that means that if we are going to fund, for instance, if through this proposal, IO got funded, CF got funded, and you voted for IO but you did not vote for CF, both of them are going to go on that intersect budget action. So ultimately, it means that if you are going to vote yes on chain for that budget info action, you are agreeing to fund both IO that you wanted to fund and as well CF that you don't want to fund. Just an illustration, right? So now, in order to accept that, and this was where I got disoriented. This was where I got uh disoriented by the process, where I really, really got disenchanted by the whole process, was that if we're going to be having that, right, it is good if Intersect steps forward to try and shove the burden away from a lot of community members who might not be able to afford that 100K. That is good. But what we should ensure is that before they can sit on that Intersect ballot, that open ballot, right, they should have passed some particular requirements, right? I do not agree that the requirement should be left entirely to the DReps because this is an intersect thing, right? It should be. I think there should have been more oversight in form of the committees, and which lends credence to what Zaidi said. Some people beforehand should have checked that this particular proposal. They should have done this background checks on these proposals before it even goes to the voting process. That okay, this particular proposal has not been funded before. This particular proposal has been funded before, based on the various committee buckets. Those were the jobs that the committees were supposed to be doing. Those background check alongside the feasibility and all. So it is counterproductive to say like to do all those background checks after the DReps vote on it because that calls to the question. The DReps is a way higher authority than Intersect. So if the DReps votes yes on this proposal by association with other proposals, and then we later got to discover that this particular proposal doesn't align with the roadmap, was not supposed to be funded, it shouldn't have been there in the first place, and all that thing. What happens? Can Intersect overrule the DReps? Obviously not.
And
But
Kate, you
because
bring
of
up
that,
Yeah, let me just interrupt you. You bring up a good point in that, that's sort of how things were going before they opened this process. And there's now this delicate balance of how to do a thorough job, like you're saying, but also we're running now against time constraints, right? Because they were already getting ready to start this process of submitting an info action, getting it approved to actually unlock funding. Like things are going to start to be blocked soon. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's up to each of us to decide, what's going to be a blocker in voting. Like you're saying, if something ends up on the ballot, that there's one thing we liked, there's one thing we didn't like. Is that thing we didn't like going to be a big enough blocker to vote no on that, inevitable info action to push us back to redoing the whole process again? So I think that's really
eh,
what it kind of comes down to. And Mercy,
exactly. And thank you for summarizing.
yeah, no problem. I want to have time for people to share their proposals. So Mercy, I'll let you interject quickly and then we'll start the round, starting with Nana Safo.
Yeah, just a quick clarification. I totally agree with what Seydou came up with. All that I was saying is that, and maybe I wasn't clear, so I want to be clear. I've put it in the chat. But what I'm saying is that even if a proposal that we don't like gets into the budget info action, it doesn't mean that they are going to get money from the treasury, because we're going to have another round of DREP voting whereby we say yes or no to the actual withdrawal of funding. So when we finish the budget info action and it passes, and there are some undesirables in there, we still have a second chance to not fund those undesirables. But of course, what Seydou said still makes sense, in the sense that a lot of these things, they are bashed together, right? But what I'm saying is that there is still an opportunity to write any, let's say, ETH proposal that might have found its way into the budgeting for action. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, Mercy. So now we'll start around. So Nana Safo, feel free to share any links in the chat, or if you want just on a high level, you reviewed a lot of proposals. What stood out to you as something, you either foresee definitely passing or that you really hope to see passes, and why? And then we'll go over
Okay,
to Darlington and then Seydou.
okay, Megan. I mean, thanks. I mean, I'll probably digress a bit and then add a little insight into the discussion so far. I mean, the points that Kate and Seydou did raise, I think they are really, I mean, relevant. One question that has been bothering my mind really is if you look at currently the intersect budget submitted, right? It is somewhat struggling to actually go through. Hopefully by 5th May it would have, I mean, gone through. But then currently as it stands, it is struggling. So really, uh, one thing that has been bothering me is if this intercept budget doesn't go through, then what happens? I mean, how are they going to administer other projects? Are they going to now charge percentage from their funding to be able to do all of those things? But I mean, I also do agree with Mercy in a sense that this particular voting round is not the final voting round. There are other voting rounds that are obviously going to happen. I think at the end of May 5th, if I remember very well, according to the budget reconciliation, there were going to be another reconciliation round and then another voting round to, sort of give opportunities for other projects who probably could not go through. Sort of, I don't know if that is exactly the plan as it stands, but that is what I heard. And I think also when it comes to even writing out the contracts, there is also another, I mean, level of scrutiny over there where, we'll have the opportunity to scrutinize each proposal carefully. I mean, those ones that are funded carefully. And of course, if the money is not spent, it goes back to the treasury. So I don't think we'll have enough problem, but definitely going forward, it has to be streamlined carefully to ensure that some of these do not become a challenge for the entire ecosystem, especially DReps and I mean their delegators. Yeah, so I have a couple of proposals that I'm really looking forward to today going through. And I mean the very first one I put the link in the chat. That is a Cardano Product Committee's community-driven 2030 Cardano vision and 2026 roadmap insight collection via workshops and structured product research. I do believe it is very relevant for us as an ecosystem to do this because almost each and every day we have roadmaps, but the roadmaps are somewhat not community backed in a sense that the data it is not based on data collected from the community. So for instance, I mean, Wada did put in a proposal to conduct a market fit research for the ecosystem, but unfortunately it is not doing pretty well at the moment. I really wish that proposal also had gone through, but it is not doing pretty well. Hopefully, I mean, we could rework it and resubmit some other time. That is also another proposal that I'm looking at. I believe that whatever research that needs to be conducted or whatever roadmap that needs to be drafted for the ecosystem, it has to be community backed or community infused so that the end products are useful products that the community can actually use and then I mean uh, through it contribute to the TVL. And then also one other proposal that I was looking forward to going through obviously the catalyst proposal because I believe, like I said earlier, a lot of the proposals we saw on this particular we saw through this particular I mean exercise ideally we're supposed to I mean submit to catalyst, right? And I understand that there is a lot of people in the ecosystem or there are a lot of ecosystem members who feel like we don't need to fund Catalyst anymore. They've gotten enough funding. They need to account for all the funding and stuff. But I still do believe that there are a lot of innovative ideas that are yet to be, actualized. And for that reason, there's a need to have Catalyst in place to accommodate proposals that cannot make their way to the Treasury directly for funding. That is, in a nutshell, how we get to build the ecosystem and also explore pretty much. So these are the three proposals that I'm really looking forward today. Going through and then getting funded finally. But obviously one is not doing too good at the moment. So if I had to replace it, I would obviously replace it with the input-output development proposal, because I believe it is very relevant for the ecosystem to have a lot of the tools they have listed that they are going to work on. And in the year 2025 and 2026. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much. Darlington, over to you.
For recommendations, and the things that were clear yeses for me were proposals that were empowering other contributors within the ecosystem as opposed to one company trying to do something. And I can't find the link I was looking for one of them, so I have to post it later. But there's a proposal from the OSC, the Open Source Committee, that is trying to pioneer a model for if you are doing anything for Cardano open source stack, anywhere along the stack, you could get supported through that effort. If that proposal is funded, like 20 other proposals on the ballot should not even be on the ballot, because they can just go through that system and have a more organized, hopefully more transparent, process for getting supported for contributing your amazing efforts to the betterment of Cardano. Same thing for the MCC community hubs. I think I saw like 7 other hubs or 8 proposals on the ballot, when there's an organized effort to have hubs that can be iterated on as a group and tap into a larger mind share. If you are building governance tooling, there's a proposal, that's the one I cannot find, from the governance tooling working group, that is meant to cover and pay for all that stuff. I'll keep my list short. There's some really good ones. That's just individual ones that are clear. Obviously, yes, we need that. But I'm really trying to focus on more organization, right? More simpler budget processes from the top level. So I'll post the link in the chat now. Thanks.
Awesome. Seydou, over to you, and then we'll go to Goma and Kit.
Right, Megan. So for me, I just have 3. You've given us 3. So the first has to do with the CF proposal, because currently how the CF have submitted or structured the Cardano Summit 2025 is something that we all have to support. I can see that they are giving much attention to Africa, which will be in Nairobi if they get funding. So the CF proposal for the Cardano Summit is something that I'm looking out to. The second has to do with the catalyst proposal. The catalyst proposal, why I'm supporting this time around, is something that they have done before, and then something that we can trust them to do, in a sense that they are holding the decentralization foundation of Cardano. Indeed, without Catalyst, I'm not sure we could have get 58 countries to participate in the Constitutional Convention and then drafting the Constitution to see. So Catalyst has been the energy behind the Cardano community, and it's something that we should all support. The last has to do with the Wada proposal, in a sense that we have been complaining, we are not getting the voice, we are not getting the attention in Africa. But before someone has to propose something to us, they have to find out. And then this is the first time I'm seeing a project which is coming to conduct a research to find out the the problems of Africa, to tell the African story by Africans themselves. So it's something that I'm looking up to, in the sense that it's also going to have a website, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen that from the proposal, a site where all African projects or what have been doing, we have been doing in Africa will be highlighted, so that you can just go there and see for yourself if you are not an African. Because for days back or for time past, it is not African who has been deciding for us. So the Wada proposal is something that I've even spoke to, I think, 2 people to look up to or support, so that we will get it done, and then we have our own story. Yeah.
Thanks, Sadhu. Kit, would you share a few proposals that you want to highlight?
Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about the obvious ones like IOCF and WADA because people have talked about them, but I'm going to look at 3 ones that I feel are good, because the first one is the Cardano. Okay, this one is under the marketing and innovation. It's Cardano Ecosystem Marketing Pavilion at Exhibition. I'm going to be dropping the link now. It's basically just a proposal that was proposed by a community member or an entity, where they want to do this marketing pavilion at this big event, Token 2049, Paris Blockchain Week, and even some big events at Africa, I believe, could be included, like the Blockchain Africa Week and everything. So I think it's a really important proposal in terms of uh, closing in getting Cardano representation at those big events is really important. This is really, because a lot of people cannot get that. You cannot quantify that by metrics, right? You cannot really exactly put a metric to it, quantify it, but the level of exposure, the level of trust, the level of VC interest that can generate is phenomenal. That's the first one. The second one is uh where did I write it? Okay, the second one is this one wasn't, I don't know the entity, rate circles, but it's basically about creating an end-to-end fund management platform for real estate builders. And what got me interested, it was submitted under the product committee uh bucket. What got me interested with this one was the fact that it was focusing on real world use cases, focusing on real estate platform for builders and investors and verifiers. So basically just creating like a tooling that would ensure them to track the money system, the distribution and disbursement of money in terms of real estate building and development, which is really, really good, a really innovative way to use smart contracts. And if this could be done perfectly, if it could be executed well, it could bring transaction volume, which is one thing I'm really big at. So I think I am in support of that proposal as well. And the third one is from Anastasia Labs, Midgard. Midgard is a scaling solution from Anastasia Labs, and people have been talking about Ouroboros layers and Hydra and a lot of these other scaling solution. I think I want to just pivot a bit here and just throw my support behind Midgard, because whilst we're talking, I wanted a core development proposal. If I'm going to support any proposal aside marketing and product development, then a core development proposal too is also in line to ensure that we are creating enough scaling solutions to accommodate the transactional flow that we want to accommodate in the Cardano ecosystem. So hence why I went for Midgard. In Anastasia Lab, there's solid thing in the Cardano ecosystem. They've been around for a while now, and they're doing really, really good things. So yeah, that's it. I'll drop the link shortly.
I think Nana Safa dropped it for you. Thanks for sharing your list. I think we might have
Yeah, thank you.
lost the Goma DRep. So if he pops back in, Martin, I'll let you share as well. But
Should I go for the Goma DRep?
all right,
Is
Mercy.
that cheating?
No, it's okay,
No,
but I just want to let everyone know that we will be opening up to Q&A, so feel free to type in the chat, questions. After Mercy shares, we'll jump into that.
yeah, so very much like Kate, I'm not going to repeat all the obvious ones that have been mentioned, but I think that as DReps, let's look at the committee proposals. So Nana Safo highlighted the product committee proposal. That's a good one. I think Civics has put in a proposal as well. Let's look at that. ASC has a proposal. Let's look at that. I know that there's a bit of a thing with the TSC and the IO proposal. I think that is still being worked on. But yeah, because and especially MCC as well. So MCC has two proposals. One for universities, sort of university outreach that really, really is important. And then the other one for the community hubs. Those are really important. So, Nana Safo has said it regarding product committee. Kate has said regarding growth and marketing committee, some of their proposals. Please look at the proposals that has to do with committees because they affect across. I think initially when we were talking, we talked about, how do we know whether this proposal should go to Catalyst or it should go to Treasury. And, like we look at proposals that have a wider reach, covers a whole lot of, what do you call it, entities and individuals and community members in the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thanks, Mercy. So I'm waiting for some more questions to come in the chat, but I do want to highlight, Sadhu had asked a question to Nana Safo in the chat. I wanted to give us a chance to discuss it a little bit. So he asked Nana Safo, why did you abstain vote on your own proposal? Maybe you could
Yeah,
talk about that.
yeah. I mean, thanks for that question, Seidu. But before I go into that, I just want to highlight that Civics Committee did not submit a budget on their own. So yeah, but there are other budgets in there who are sort of related to, Civics Committee if funded, but it is not a submission from the Civics Committee itself. So yeah, just to put that out there.
Yeah,
Right.
thank
So
you.
yeah, sure, you're welcome.
It's from Michael. So maybe
Okay.
he submitted under IO. He used to be the chair of Civic. So
That's the beyond minimum viable governance, right?
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Awesome.
And of course, like we can't mention there are a whole lot of proposals that I support personally.
Yeah,
The AI proposal from Fotrek. There
yeah,
is one. We could go on and on. But for
absolutely.
now, let's just look at the ones that affect a lot of community members, and let's give them our support.
Sure. Right. So to answer Sadie's question, I did vote abstain on our own proposal, and the reason is very simple. The reason is that it is a way of declaring conflict of interest in this particular voting process. Initially, the voting buttons were going to be just two, which is yes and no. But DReps did raise a concern that what happens if I have a conflict with my own proposal? It cannot happen that I am not participating at all as a DRep. So I need a way to declare my conflict of interest, right? And then they came up with the abstain button. So I mean, for the other DReps who are here, if you are somewhat aligned with a particular proposal in a way, or you're going to benefit from it in a way, or you are listed directly as a beneficiary or whatever, then you could probably look at it. But I mean, we do support our own proposal, of course. Obviously, I mentioned that I really wish it had gone through, but I cannot go and vote yes on my own proposal in this particular phase. So I just had to abstain and then watch the other DReps, determine our fate. So that is the simple reason why you see abstain vote from
I'm really curious to hear
Wada.
from the other DReps on this because I have a different take on it.
Sure.
And maybe I didn't understand that as an explicit kind of advice in the three votes. But how I would see things is if I'm delegating to Wada DRep, I believe in their vision, their mission, and believe in them doing the work. So I would want, the Wada DRep to be helping the Wada's work continue. So to be putting that stake that I've staked in Wada DRep towards getting their work funded. So I wonder if other DReps could weigh in on, is that your understanding also of the abstain button, or, how do you think this works? And I see Seidu's hand up, so I'll let you go first.
Right. So, Nana, just a follow up on this one. Early 2023, if I'm not mistaken, we had a direct code of conduct document. I don't know whether what was captured in that document spell it out that DReps should not be voted for their own proposals or not, because I can quite remember that one of the facts of it was that DREP will actually vote on their own proposal, but they have to be transparent and be clear about it. So it is something that I just want to know where it is being spelled out that you should not support your own proposal.
Yeah, thanks for that input. I think I mean if you look at the code of conduct, right, it was stated clearly that it is not a document that should be taken and be practiced by every DREP. Every DREP has the opportunity to, derive their own code of conduct out of the original one that was drafted, right? So you draft your own code of conduct and then you declare your own conflicts. So right. I mean, so in our rationale that we're going to post, I mean, within this week, right, we're going to explain why we have, I mean, voted abstain on our own proposal, and that is pretty much what I've shared with, I mean, all of you here. It is just to make sure that we are not influencing, our own proposal at this particular level, right? We want to give the opportunity to the other DReps to determine the fate, just as we also have the opportunity to determine the fate of other DReps proposals or other vendors proposals in this particular round.
Mersey, I saw your hand go up. Okay, your hand's back up. Do you want to weigh in here?
Sure. So, I've had a lot of conversations with Nana Safo and sort of the Wada DRep group in terms of the appropriate expectation. So I know that in the community, like for instance, Emergo is being put under a lot of pressure because people are complaining that they are voting for their own proposals. I am very much in the camp of Megan, that when you have received delegation, there's a reason why you receive delegation. It is to push something that your delegator believes that you alone can push. And I hope that the decision to vote abstain on, say, the WADA proposal is not final. I hope that it's still a conversation. Obviously, with my position, I don't like over-influencing the WADA DREP. But, like, let's, like I hear it on both sides as to, do you vote yes on your own proposal or do you vote abstain? I mean, right now, the WADA DREP, I think that the delegation is sitting at 13 million. That can do a lot for a lot of African proposals if we should decide to vote, not abstain and actually to vote. So as I said, I mean, I know that, as I said, Emergo is taking a lot of flack. Maybe Wada DREP doesn't want to take that kind of flack, but I think that we should have a very good conversation because, for instance, Emergo cannot say that they will not vote on any of their proposals. Like, how do we do that? If it was Catalyst and it was anonymous, they would be voting for their own proposals. We will be voting for our own proposals. But yeah, so I think it's a good conversation to have, and let's not sort of close the door in terms of which way we are going. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't need to put anyone on the spot for this particular question, but if any of the other panelists want to weigh in on this, and then Nana Safa, we can come back to you. But I don't know if Darlington or Kit. Yeah, Darlington, go ahead.
Yeah, I think when the role of a DREP is different than a builder or a uh you know, I don't think DREP should be putting in proposals. I think it's a massive conflict of interest. It muddies the water on your intentions of becoming a DREP. Is it to amass power to get your agenda through? Or is it really to be a DREP? like Mercy pointed to the Emergo DREP, right, and how much dedication they lost when they voted for their own proposals. So yeah, I think separation of power, separation of concern. If you want to DREP. I think if you are a DREP and you do have interest and products, is best you work with the committees, the working group, the collective efforts, catalysts, the open source efforts, because we can still get as individuals in the community, we can still be supported in that way. But if we must propose something directly to the Treasury, I think the wise thing to do would be to abstain on our own proposal. That doesn't mean WADA DREP shouldn't vote for other African proposals. I just think the WADA DREP should, not that I have a say in what the WADA DREP does, but it should abstain from voting from the WADA product, global product roadmap vision proposal, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add a little bit to what Darlington said earlier, I mean, the Water DREP is for, I mean, our vision covers the entirety of Africa and not just WADA as an entity, right? So whoever is pledging their stake to us is pledging their stake to us because they believe we will support Africa in times like this. And that is pretty much what we have done. We have reviewed numerous proposals, and those that are related to Africa or those that we believe are going to be impactful to Africa, if they deserve to be voted, yes, of course, we do vote yes. But we draw the line between, I mean, WADA as an entity submitting a proposal and then WADA DREP, voting yes on that particular proposal. We believe that it is going to do us, I mean, more harm than good if we go that tangent. And for that reason, the best way we could survive this whole, I mean, discussions is to abstain. And then in our rationale, state it clearly that we are abstaining from our proposal, not because we do not support the proposal. Of course, we do support. We really wish, other DREPs would also support and vote for it, but we cannot vote on it, but rather we are giving the chance to other DREPs to determine the fate of this particular proposal, while we also focus on, helping other proposals go through to basically bring development to Africa, right? So we are looking at it from a broader perspective and not just because, it is something related to Africa. We are looking at the source of the particular proposal, and then we are using it to determine whether or not we have any conflict or we don't have any conflict. So for instance, if you would see, there are other proposals that are, looking to bring a lot of other stuffs into Africa. For instance, the Cardano Summit 2025, for instance, is going to bring some form of marketing and, engagement to Africa. For such a proposal, we feel very confident about it, so we have voted yes for it. But for WADA's proposal, it's where we draw the boundary. We cannot vote yes on that particular proposal. And I mean, sorry if you're
I just want
delegating
to
to
jump
us.
in. No, I just want to jump in with, kind of a technical question.
Sure.
We mentioned earlier that for a proposal to pass, it needs to have, is it 51% yes compared to the total that was voted on it? So is that abstain power included in that total? And therefore, would abstaining sort of hurt us more than actually not voting does? Just to clarify.
Yeah, so the answer is that the abstain vote doesn't affect the calculation of the threshold. So it is
Okay.
just the yes and the no votes that are going to be used to calculate the threshold. So we are safe from that.
All right. Thanks for clarifying. And I see, Kit,
You're
your
welcome.
hand.
And just on the clarification, that's the explicit abstain. So you actually need to go in and vote abstain. If you just don't vote at all, that's a no.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you. Kit, welcome to the conversation. What did you want to add?
Yeah, I just I just wanted to play devil advocate a bit here. Um, okay, when we say abstaining on a proposal on the governance action, I think if we want to be abstaining for a proposal, I want to like just put this question out there because I think Messi mentioned it and it was a really good point to make. If we were to be catalyst, right? If the whole proposal bidding process was not in public like this, right? If it was anonymous or pseudonymous the way it used to be in Catalyst, where people don't know who voted on what and who is voting on who, right? Would you have voted on your proposal? I think that's the important distinction to have, because it's an ethical, like, saying abstaining from your proposal. You can do it for an ethical reason. There can be for and against argument for it. So ultimately, if you wear me, right, if I wear in the shoes of Wada, what I'll think of was that if this were to be catalyst, right, just to be ethically sure that I've fulfilled all righteousness in my mind, because to be honest, I really don't care whatever anybody else says about whether I voted yes or no on my proposal, right? You can mount all the social pressure you like, as long as my delegators, if you don't agree with what I'm doing, don't delegate to me. That's my own philosophy, right? So what I would ask myself was that if this were to be catalyst, do I believe in this project enough to vote for this project? Like, nobody is going to know I voted for this project. Nobody knows how much I'm voting with. But can I vote this project in secret? If yes, then yes, I'm going to vote the project in open, and I don't care if I have 10,000 voting power, or 10 million voting power, or 10 billion voting power to myself. So that is just the uh, psyche of the conversation I want to put in, right? Ultimately, if you as a proposal feel so good about your project, and you think your project is in line with the vision, because when you wear the hat of a DRep and you look at the project objectively, or try as much as possible to look at it objectively, and it still fits the ball, then why not vote yes if you were always going to vote yes if nobody was going to be watching? That's just my own input.
I feel like we could continue a whole nother round on this topic. It's quite nuanced and relevant, I think, to all of us here. But we are at time for this session, so everyone will have to tune in for whatever our next Wada Forum brings us. And I do want to pass the microphone back over to Mercy to close out this session. And thanks everyone, thanks the panelists for being here. And thanks to everyone who's tuned in online. Mercy.
Hi, thank you, Megan. And my apologies that I'm not able to be on camera at this point. I'm not able to log back into the laptop, but I think this has been an amazing conversation. I'm glad that we kept it positive and very productive. I always say that when it comes to, sort of African DReps, we are still suffering when it comes to delegation. As best as I'm able to, I'm lobbying behind the scenes. So hopefully it will not always be like this. But I think that as a DRep, the best way to attract delegation is to bring value to the ecosystem. And bringing value is what we are all doing today here in terms of discussion. Finding time to look at some of these budgets that is very near and dear to people's hearts, and making sure that we get our voice heard. And sometimes all that we need to do is to look for a special space that we are interested in and we want to contribute. So for instance, Seidu is quite interested in the net change limit. He spends quite a bit of time on there on Twitter and so on. And that is what he's interested in. To some extent, he's engaged with the budget, but more so with the net change limit. And that is good too. Let's find what we are good at and let's do it and bring value. That is how we get delegation, because getting delegation right now, as we can all see, is getting more and more and more important. Without delegation, proposals from outside of the world that will ultimately benefit the global community might not get funded. I always say that there is a Western viewpoint, there is an American viewpoint, there's a European viewpoint, Asia Pacific viewpoint, Southeast and Southwest Asia. There's an African Latin viewpoint. together, coming together and, building is the way to success. We can't just leave it to, where the high delegations currently reside. These delegations need to spread out. So, in closing, I would say that, if anybody is listening to us and they have a few millions under a pillow, please look to any one of these amazing DReps on this call, and please delegate to them. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you spending it with us. Thank you. Back to you, Megan.
Yeah, that's actually the end of our session for today. We just went a few minutes over, but mostly stayed to time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists, and thanks to everyone who's tuned in on X.